Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian owned, not to control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to the replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening in the replay. Definitely want to do this episode today. This is the Vault episode 386, State Marriage License versus Private Trust Contract. Definitely excited about doing this episode. Got a bunch of people that have reached out to the Vault for many years now about this subject matter. We did our best to stay in the private about it, but it's one of those things that we just have to talk about it because there's so many people that reach out to the Vault that may be single, maybe even in marriages, and we talk about this type of stuff privately with the consultations and things of that nature. But we're gonna go ahead and get into it today. So this is definitely not intended to be legal advice, financial advice. You don't need to worry about that. We're going out. We're giving you information for you to go do further research on your own. And these are some of the questions that come up in the actual consultation. So we're only addressing the consultation questions, not something that is considered to be advice for your own personal decision, obviously. This is the Vault episode 386, State Marriage Licenses, or State Marriage License versus Private Trust Contract. Definitely want to do this episode because we get so many people that reach out to the Vault, and a lot of times you may get one party out of the couple that wants to be in trust, and ultimately sometimes you see divisions happen in families. And sometimes you see families come together through a private trust contract. So we're going to talk about it today. Appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. Once again, state marriage versus private trust contract. We're just going to go ahead and start it out the way it needs to be started out because, everybody likes to say they live in some free country, they live in the United States or wherever you're living in at. But we're going to talk about it today from the state's perspective where people in the United States, they all say, oh, I want to be married, but I don't want to deal and have the state involved in my business. We get a lot of people that want to maintain their privacy. This is a big topic when you're in privacy, specifically people that reach out in trust. They want to know how is it that they can live their lives privately at the same time not have to go and get some so-called allowance, some so-called contract from the state talking about you're applying to be in love or applying to basically fall under their rules, which is fair, but it's an option. It's not a have to. It's an option. And we've always known this since a young guy. Always known this, but at the same time, we want to go ahead and talk about it because we have so many younger people that reach out to the vault. They're not married yet. They want to be private. They want to live private, and they don't want to deal with a lot of the BS that comes with having a state marriage license. So, what the state stands on in this particular case, we're going to cover a couple points early. The state is standing on the fact that they are allowing you, giving you permission to actually be wedded. They're giving you a permit. It's almost like they can revoke it. They grant you a permit to do or not to do. That's a license. So we kept doing our further research, kept doing further conversation with our senior trustees and mentor. When you talk about marriage, it's like, well, does marriage go through civil court or does it go through criminal court when you go through a situation for it? Traditionally, it goes through civil court. So you would be dealing with a civil matter, which is actually pecuniary in nature, financial in nature. It's financial in nature. Civil's dealing with finance. It's not criminal, it's civil. So do you have to take care of the other party? Do you have to take care of financial obligations? That's what that license comes with. That's what that state marriage license comes with. It comes with a financial obligation that you may or may not be aware of, both parties. But people want to go get into these state obligations, state permitted licenses, permits. But then we get over to the trust contract side. The side everybody wants to be on when they reach out to the vault. Oh man, I'm looking to go private. I want to make sure my relationship is private with my significant other. Okay. Well, if you're talking about it's going to be private, that's a private trust contract. That has nothing to do with the state. It's private, first of all. That means it's not with the state. It will repeat it again. It's private because it's not with the state. So, well, Trust Christian, what gives this private trust contract in all actuality superiority over a state marriage license? Well, Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. United States. That means all the states. Doesn't matter that your state you're married in one state. The United States, all the states fall under what? The United States. So, if they fall under the United States Constitution says no state will impair the obligation of a what? Contract. Does it say what type of contract? Does it say it's a marriage contract? Does it say that it's a trust contract? What contracts will they impair? It says no state will impair the obligation of a contract. That's in part. So when you go look at Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution, it will say that in part. There's other parts to that inside of that one. But this is the thing that we get coming through the vault all the time. It's people talking about, oh, well, I want to be married, but I don't want to have the state involved in my business because I don't want to deal with child support. Well, if you don't want to deal with child support, you might not want to get a license. You might want to get a private trust contract in place with the people that you're dealing with. Oh man, Trust Christian Revolt, you going there? You gonna go there with your significant other? You gonna put a private trust contract in place? You gonna put a contract in place says that if I sign this, I can't come after you for finance? That's how you gotta do it. Men. You want to protect yourselves in these situations. These men contact the vault all the time. Oh man, the state's coming after me for the child support. Well, it's a little too late now. But what about the young men? They haven't dealt with this yet. Where the United States is favoring these women. The United States is giving them full custody by default. The United States, this different states is not just not the United States. These different states are giving them child support when these women are working. Men contact us all the time. Oh man, I don't want to deal with that, man. Well, you got to put a contract in place. Just like you got to have a prenuptial, that's a trust contract. It's a trust contract. Oh man, I didn't know I could put a trust contract in place and that's going to solve my worries. That's going to solve my woes. Well, when you have a contract in a civil situation, that contract comes above the state contract, correct? Because no state will impair the obligation of a contract. So if you two private parties had a contract before the state gets involved, they got to at least adhere to that contract. What does that contract say? Well, when this is over, it's over. When this is over, there's no getting any money after me. See, the state, they want to say, oh, it's about the child. The state say it's about the child, but really it's about money. It's about money. So what are you going to do, gentlemen? Are you going to put a contract in place? Oh man, I don't know if she's going to stick around because, if I put a contract in front of her, if I put the trust in front of her as a prenup, she not really going to be feeling that. What that means, she's not for you. That might be hard for some of y'all to hear because you're thinking with the wrong head. Instead of focusing on protecting your family estate, protecting your assets, you think money leaving out of your pocket because the state wants to be involved is a good idea? You got to man up. You got to put a contract in place. The two parties, before they get married, they could put a contract in place that says this is what we agree to. We already agree to this. So if when it hits the fan, because everybody's in love in the beginning, but when it hits the fan, what you gonna do? We're gonna pull out that contract. And when the other party decides to have what's they call it? Selective memory. When the other party decides to get absentee memory, You don't worry about it. You take the contract in. It's a civil situation, right? The marriage is civil because it's dealing with money. It's not criminal, right? Right. So if it's civil, let's talk about that money because that's what they're coming after you for. They're coming after you guys for money. They got to hire people to do the paperwork for your misgiving of being able to manage your own private affairs. How do you manage your own private affairs? You go put a contract in place. A contract doesn't have to necessarily be this sophisticated thing. It could be something, look, well, from the way things have looked, I'm not trying to deal with no type of financial situation after this, and that's what I'm gonna put right here. I'm gonna put that plain and clear, and I'm gonna make sure you agree to it. I'm gonna make sure that you agree that anything that we have, that we create together, we'll split it 50-50 afterwards. Period. Do you see? Is it not? Is it 49-51 or is it 50-50? In the contract, it said 50-50. So when we take that contract before some so-called administrator of a contract, before some mediaries, because that's what they're doing. They're mediating a situation for your misgiving and lack of education. Because you didn't know how to put together your affairs properly. But when you put together your affairs properly through a private trust contract, that's how it works. So one young lady asked Trust Christian one time, oh, well, so what happens if we get married? Was like, well, we're going to put a contract in place. Well, okay, how does that work? We're going to draft up a contract. It's a private trust contract. We're going to write our different agreements. You got to cover all your bases. You got to put in there also that we can amend it. But we got to do it together. You got to amend it, but you got to do it together. If we don't do it together, then it doesn't count. So you see in a civil marriage situation, it says, oh, in a civil marriage, it's got to be administered by a state official. What happens when you take that private trust contract, because it's supposed to be for public record, right? So everybody can know that you're married. So if it's some type of adultery situation, we can get that acknowledged too in the public, that we were actually bonded through this contract together. And there's some type of remuneration for our actions. There's some type of accountability. So we go file it on the public record. Where do you file it at? The county record, the state record. Oh man, well, where would I file it at? In the miscellaneous section. What's wrong with that? It's still filed on the state. It's still filed on the record. Does it say on there that this is a private agreement between a marriage of these two people? Does it say that? Who can change or impair the obligation of the contract? That's how you know it's private. Okay. So we got a private contract now sitting on the county record. We got a contract that's actually legally recognized. Why? Because we got it notarized. Huh. We got this document notarized that both of us signed it. That's a legal document. Oh man, is it a legal marriage, Trust Christian involved? It's a private trust contract, but is it a legal marriage? Sounds like a legal contract. But you want to get the state marriage license because you're ignorant, because you're lazy. That's all. And then you gentlemen, you gonna fall into some trap, letting some young lady, oh man, well I'm not doing that. Hit the bricks. But how many of y'all gentlemen know how many young ladies reach out to the vault and they gonna put y'all in the same contract? We get young ladies reach out to the vault. We got women that reach out to the vault all the time. Single women that have not been married. They go through trustee training. You think they're going to marry you if you're not in a private trust contract? How are you going to get married to these women that are in situations where they have some finance, they're trying to protect it, and they're not trying to let you take anything from them? These women, as they get more and more freedoms and more rights to go out and make more and more money, you think they're not going to try to protect it when they walk into a marriage with you? You got to be okay, gentlemen, with going into a private contract. But you got to lead your household by making sure that you're okay and comfortable with a private trust contract. You got to put that private trust contract in place so she doesn't say, oh, well, I'm not making any money. And now she's trying to get yours because you didn't want to learn the trust system. She's got everything in trust. She doesn't own anything, but she controls it. And you got caught slipping. Now you got to get your nose wiped because she's about to take you to the cleaners. You got some business. It's in your name. You didn't learn the trust system. And she's going to clean you out. She doesn't have anything in her name. She's in trust. They go through trustee training all the time. These single women. They go through trustee training. They put their businesses in trust. You think they're going to marry you? And they're not going to be in trust? You think they're going to take the assets out of the trust for you, gentlemen? They're not. We're preparing you for the real rules and the real game out here. So not only are these women not going to put their assets in the open for you, they'll actually go get the state marriage license on you. So now they got a permit in place, they got a contract in place that gives them further power. Because they don't have any assets in their name. They're in trust. When they're in trust, they don't own anything. They just control it. And you, gentlemen, on the other hand, you didn't learn the trust system. You didn't have your assets in trust. And when it's time to sit down for that divorce decree, they're going to expose everything you had in your name. In the marriage, before the marriage, because you were unprotected. We had this we get people that go through divorces all the time come through the vault. They got a divorce, and this young lady went after this guy. This guy got a multi-million-dollar business. And she was definitely not excited about that. But hadn't talked to this trustee in a while. They reached out to us. They let us know what was going on. They had the entire business in trust. They actually had decent attorneys. Why? Because she didn't get anything. She thought she was going to get half the business. She thought she was going to get half that business, multi-million-dollar business. She thought she was going to be living on six-figure income for years to come. Oh, yeah. She thought she was going to get half the cars that he had just got, all the houses that were being acquired in the trust name. She really thought that he was actually acquiring these houses in his own name. Then what happens? Months later, she sits down. They try to come in. They try to find out what he owns. He doesn't own anything. Wasn't she gobsmacked? Wasn't she awestruck? What do you mean he doesn't own anything? He does own that company. Ma'am, no he doesn't. That's owned by a trust. She didn't get anything. You want to know how much she was going to clean him out for? $300K minimum. That was the minimum she was about to get settled off the rip. She was about to get $300K. So he's going through this situation. He reaches out to Trust Christian in the vault. Within a matter of 5 minutes, we gave him a few answers to some of the questions they had, especially their lawyers in the proceeding. Move forward. Nothing was taken. Nothing. Not a business. Not a dime. How does he deal with child support when it's based off your income? He's not making any money. You see how that changes now? If the child support is based off of how much money you make? It's based off how much money you make. Well, it's own nothing, control everything. State marriage licenses are permits. So people say, well, how do you get around being able to be legally recognized as a couple or recognized as a marriage on paper? Well, we have a private trust contract, which cannot be impaired by the state, and you get it legally notarized, which makes it a legal document that can be upheld in court. Sounds like a legal contract. A private trust contract, a private marriage contract. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you understood contracts. You understood how to maintain your privacy. You understood how to contract properly, whether it's the men or whether it's the women. This is the question that people reach out to the vault all the time and ask about. How do I get around this? There's not much you can do on the back end, but you can do it on the front end. Whether it's prenuptial, whether it's a private trust contract that states whatever we grab together as a family, we'll divide as a family. It leaves people in positions of power because now they have options. Well, if you don't want to be too tied together, you know, some of these women, they want to have their own businesses. They want to have their own money. You hear that type of stuff, gentlemen, and you need to be prepared because they are going to, by default, state laws favor the woman in the United States. You think you stand a chance though, gentlemen? You think you're going to out earn them? That's fine. And when you got the money coming to you in your name, she's coming to eat you up. She's coming to take your lunch that she may have not have built, may have not have worked for. A state marriage license ain't gonna protect you there, fellas. A private trust contract ensures that before the state ever gets involved, we need this adhered to first. This is what we need to discuss first. That's what. Oh, what about the women? How do we stay protected? These women supposedly are making money out here. Oh, I'm making money. I want to protect myself. I don't want no man to come along and everything I built before we got married, he ends up getting half of it because I got more than him. Well, sounds like they're in trust, right? Sounds like they own nothing, control everything. And when you gentlemen walk into these situations with these women, you got to be prepared. Because they're coming. They're going to let you know you're not getting anything that I've built before this. So what we built after, you might want to have in the right position. What's that? A private trust contract. Not in love with the state marriage license. A private trust contract. That you two agree upon. That you two create the terms for. If anything happens, if there's a breach of trust, what happens when there's a breach of trust? What happens when there's a breach of trust, gentlemen? Do you have any type of documents or any type of rules in place? That's the question. The private trust contract, Article 1, Section 10 in part says no state will impair the obligation of a contract. So there's no need to be scared. There's no need to feel no type of way. What you got to do is grow your business, education, invest in your private education. Some people say, oh, does it need to be wordy? Does it need to be long? Where are the examples of it? First of all, state marriage contracts are down at the law library. You can go to the law library and go get a state marriage contract. Now, if you want to do a private one, you already know. You got to come up with your own law rules. Because the contract makes the law. You got to come up with your own laws in the private trust contract. That's what. The private trust contract says you're not going to get any money after me after this situation is over. If it is. Period. See, this is the difference between a public and a private education. See, people try to knock private people. Oh, they done went through 2 or 3 marriages. Donald Trump went through 2 or 3 marriages. Did you know he had private contracts in place that says when something happens, he actually gives the women a house and he gives them money? That's the contract. You don't hear these women coming back saying, oh, hey, he didn't pay his child support this month. Because there's contracts in place. There's private trust contracts in place. He's in trust. You think these women won't try to sue him every time he makes more money? They will come after him for more money. Correct? Correct. That's in place. It's a private trust contract in place. That's all. It's a private trust contract in place. It says you're not going to come after me for additional monies every time I make a new acquisition, every time I grow a business. After we're done. Some people say, "Oh man, it sounds too businessy." Well, it's the same thing with a power of attorney. How do you get to go in the hospital to see someone that you love if you don't have a power of attorney? Well, because you're married, do you have to? Isn't that document filed on the county record? Yes. Isn't the power of attorney a legal document that's notarized that can be filed on the county record? Yes. With the private trust contract of marriage? Yes. What are you losing? What are you missing? Want to know what you're losing and missing? You're missing the state babysitting you. You're losing the state coming to save you, but whoever wants to be saved by the state. Is it the women or is it the men? Who wants to be saved? Instead of focusing on your private affairs, maintaining your privacy. They actually post divorce decrees in the public. All you got to do is go down to the public record. Say there was a breach of trust. We're terminating trust. And it's over. Your lives go back to separate. This is talking about no social. We're talking about having a family EIN for the trust. We're talking business, not personal. See, the state marriage license is public. That's personal. The private trust contract, that's business. That's the difference, ladies and gentlemen. What happens when you get in trust and you're already married? Most people don't even know how to deal with that. Most people don't even know how to deal with this type of stuff. But when you got those things in place, most of the time the lawyer's going to say, well, it's not in their name. So there's nothing we can do. It's not in their name. We can't go after them for that. State marriage license puts you in that vulnerable position. This isn't an easy conversation for most people. Because they want to do it the way they're going to take the easy route out. Well, if we can't deal with this on our own privately, let's go get the state involved. Let's start acting like kids. Let's go start acting like welfare recipients. What do you need to state for if you're private? But you're not. You're public. You're personal. You want your business in the public. You got people going on the internet, on these social media websites, crying about their child support on the public side. But they never put a private trust contract in place. They went ass naked into the marriage. And now you're going to see what that gets you. That's what happens. You go into a situation unprotected, you already know the outcomes. Endless possibilities of no control. Because you own it. You don't control it. Trust Christian. Own nothing. Control everything. This isn't an easy conversation for most people to have. Because they want the easy route out. Well, how am I going to get it legally recognized? It's legally recognized because it's a legal document once it's notarized. So what are you talking about? This is the ignorance that people spew out. Because they're ignorant and they don't know. And they're not private. They're public. But for the ones of us that are going to maintain our privacy, not talking about some social security numbers, not talking about, oh, I got to go get a permit to be licensed. We were talking about this for another group of people when they wanted to do same-sex marriages. All you had to do was get a power of attorney. Oh, we want it to be recognized by the state. It was going to be recognized by the county. Isn't the county in the state? Yes. Isn't the state under the United States? Yes. Then it was going to be legally recognized because the notary is a part of the United States. They're actually bonded. It's a legal document, power of attorney. But you want to know why same-sex marriage was even looked at or considered? Yo, here we go. Y'all ready? Trust Christian, know not to control everything. It was for taxes. Now we can tax them on the same tax filing. Uh, did Trust Christian just expose the whole system? Hold on. Let's go ahead and remix that again. So, same-sex marriage was legally recognized for what reason? Taxes. Now you all can file taxes together. Right? Because it's legally recognized. Right? Let's pass legislation for that. We need some more money coming into the system. We don't have enough other people doing it, so we'll just allow them to do it. We got to get taxes out of these people, right? Trust Christian said it. Had no problem with saying it. That's why same-sex marriage was acknowledged by the states. It was for money. It was to get some extra money from having a license. It was to get some extra money for a permit. You need to be permitted. Right. Instead of going out and filing a private trust contract. That these two parties are here joined together. Traditionally, because what is the license even dealing with? Business. Because when it's over, it's about business. Because it's what? Civil. It's not criminal, right? It can only be one or the other, civil or criminal. So it's civil dealing with money. And that's why they allowed it, because it deals with money. Well, what about the private trust contract? Does that deal with the money? It's dealing with the civil. It's a contract. Civil. Put in their agreements. You can always amend it. Why not have it legally recognized in the public that you two are married? What's wrong with that? That lets people know. Don't mess with what? My property, because it's in trust, right? What's in trust? Property. What's in trust? Property. What's that property in there? Your word, your vows, maybe wedding bands. Maybe property. Maybe it's the private trust contract for the family or the private family trust contract. Instead of it being a straight marriage license, that doesn't give you anything other than a permit from the state. But a private family trust contract, that puts you in a position where, hey, this is our family trust. We're married on paper through the trust contract. That's how we're living our lives. It sounds so abnormal to public people. But to the private, it's happening all the time. We were trained this way, to live this way. We don't go out ass naked into a public marriage license. Why would we do that? So when the other party leaves, they get half of what you put together, or they get more than half. Because the state laws favor traditionally the women in the states. That's what. And gentlemen, if you think you're going to get around it, you're not. But for the gentlemen that we know that we're in trust, before the situations usually hit the fan, they come out unscathed. They come out with a big smile on their face. And they thank Trust Christian, for sure, in the vault. Because they understand Trust Christian own not to control everything. Just that small little thing in the business contract that they don't own anything made the difference. And they're moving on without getting what they put together before it taken or what they put together after taking. And what they're going to get moving forward in their life that they have in their control taken. To give freely is a virtue. To be compelled is a vice. Or you're compelled to give someone something after it's over. You got to stand on your own 2 feet. The private trust contract, the private family trust contract, puts people in place, puts them in a position where it's an agreement between both parties. No one else. This is going to make the adults be adults, not kids. Where you got to learn to keep your word. Bottom line. Where you can't go back on the contract and say, "Oh, I didn't agree to that. I signed it, but I didn't really know what it meant." This is why you sit down on the front end. Maybe you don't need the prenup. Maybe you just do the private family trust contract. We already know what we got. We know what we're going to end up dissolving. And that's that. This isn't a long-winded topic. This is an easy conversation. We've been trained this way, ladies and gentlemen. There's a growing population of women making money. They're going to make sure that they put it in the right position before they get with any man. Because now you're seeing women having to pay spousal support. And as you see that trend growing in the United States where women are paying spousal support, private family trust contracts are going to be more relevant to them. They're going to grow more with them. But on the back end of that, the men got to protect themselves. Maybe you don't do the prenup, but the private family trust contract is what's going to save you. We've seen it once, we've seen it twice, we've seen it multiple times. And the other partner, when you go through trustee training, you might want to have them sit in the room. Because the one that usually doesn't know about the trust system, guess what? They end up getting nothing. You think they get something? How they going to get something? Nothing is in the other partner's name. They made sure it's not in their name. They could have terminated the company. And a whole new company could have been started with the assets and trust. We're going to see, though, how people adopt to this thought process in the public. Because a lot of people are hesitant about it. How do I deal with this person? How do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? You got to be honest. You got to be in trust. Private trust contract, private family trust contract. That's all. That's all. That alleviates a lot of the headache. As soon as you put that contract on the table, that's what has to be adhered to first. Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. When you think the law doesn't stand for you, it does. All states are in the United States. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is the Vault, episode 386. State marriage license versus private trust contract, private family trust contract. Definitely want to say we're really excited about the workshop we got coming up this week on the 18th, 19th, and 20th. It's definitely been a few months that we've been advertising this and talking about it. Definitely is already, pretty full. We wanted to make sure that there were no last minute situations, and usually the mentors are pretty confident about that. Definitely excited about having the individuals that we're going to have in the room, or the families that we're going to have in the room. And it was interesting is that, it's always what we always talk about. It's just about having those trustees in the room. A lot of trustees are there, and that's mainly what's in the room usually is trustees. So, it's good to see the trustees taking hold of building those relationships with the mentor. This is obviously opportunity to build a relationship with one of the mentors that Trust Christian and Evolve have. That's private. It's definitely going to be pretty exciting to move forward with one of the mentors privately, because then you get that additional earshot, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and things of that nature. Someone that has lived their lives for as long as we know them for sure, but they've lived their lives like that since they were in their 20s, and they're over 50. So they've lived that way for a long time. Set up international banks, like literally a bank, and had wealthy people's money going through it. Just like a hedge fund, banks can cease because people want to move on. You can sell a bank, you can sell funds. So it's just one of those things. Really honored to have this mentor, come through, and I want to do the contract. We're going to be in Atlanta with this one. So if you're a local in Atlanta, you got a last minute, want to get there, feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. But definitely excited about this workshop. Obviously, doing business with no SSN, only an EIN, caters to, the private trust contract mentality, as opposed to the state marriage license mentality. So definitely excited about it. Look forward to hearing from the individuals there. Christian at trustchristian.com for consultations, even if you're dealing with it in your own personal life and you're considering marrying somebody and things of that nature. It's always good to get that consultation, move forward, and just get most of your questions answered. Uh, had quite a few consultations recently, and just always they've been really good. With the people that are moving forward in the trustee training. We're definitely gonna have a bigger trustee training workshop this year than we've had in a while, just because of the timing and what we got going on. So really looking forward to that. We most likely will be doing that in the third quarter, beginning of the third quarter, the end of the second quarter. So look forward to it. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Look forward to hearing from you all. Peace.